Hi guys, another morning video for the day, or not for, this is not today with them, because I released mine last night, my last video, but for today, we're going to be talking about something that I actually think is pretty darn cool, and that I've been listening to this YouTuber, Stupendous Wave. I'm just using the picture that he included in the video, and also, if you can see, I have the little thing that's like down there. If you look at the video, you can see it's a Star Wars Rebellion type thing. But mainly what I like to notice for such, for the whole thing itself, for Star Wars, Supreme Leader Snoke, we haven't met someone like him. In the history of Star Wars, there was a time where Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine, this was back in the Empire, he ordered a certain army, a certain section of the Empire to expand into a greater force, to head to the outer known regions of our galaxy, even beyond the galaxy, to check and see what was out there. In fact, instead of armies, they kind of had protection. The Empire kind of had communication stations and laboratories, science stations, just so they can observe what's out there and communicate with what's out there. Sometimes because Palpatine kind of believed there was a dark side user, someone that was super powerful out there, or the dark side itself could be beyond the galaxy, and he seeks it, because you know how Palpatine is, he wants all this power, but he dies, he doesn't get it. Now, in knowledge, not Vanos, in knowledge of Star Wars, we know Palpatine does come back, but that is not expanded in this universe of Star Wars, or at least of the Disney new versions, because the thing is, that was an expanded universe. We don't know if a movie is going to be made or if it's going to be connected to this whole thing. We don't even know if a show's going to come out. All I know is there's two things that have kind of happened, and I've touched on this topic, I believe, before. The Second Galactic Civil War is something that I like to look at, and the Yuuzhan Vong War, and that is another war. I kind of have connection to this. Both wars have a big plot in the Star Wars universe. Snoke, Palpatine, Luke Skywalker, Rey, they've all been connected to it since the beginning of Star Wars, since we found out about it in Episode 4 back in the 80s. So I kind of find it appealing how somehow we've been able to figure this out. Like, if you look back in time of Star Wars, Palpatine was taught by Plagueis. Plagueis was killed by Palpatine in his sleep. Palpatine became Emperor. He used to be Darth Sidious by Darth Plagueis, but then he became Emperor Palpatine, or really Emperor Sidious. Didn't really matter how you called him it, because it was the same thing, really. Same name, just switched around a little bit. But Palpatine feared something out there. He wasn't just fearing it. He was looking for it. He was looking for the dark side. He was looking for stuff out there. Now the only reason Snoke might exist is because he probably was that thing out there. Because there's only two theories I've been able to come up with. Either Snoke is something that was out there, or he was part of this Empire research facility, and he might have gotten messed up. Snoke could be thousands of years old. He could be, he could have the age of a millennium. Far more greater than Yoda has, because he only lives up to 800 years old. Almost 1,000, which is kind of pretty crazy, because 200 years before his life was the end of the battle between the Jedi and the Sith, technically. Not exactly, but it was the last time we ever saw the Sith, in greater numbers, really. It's just a bit weird, and it connects. Snoke might have been some human. He could have been an admiral or a force user, probably, that was out there, because if we know anything, There's always someone out there who practices either the dark or the light. Either it's a Padawan like Ezra Bridger from Lothal, or just this kid who is super angry and he somehow can lift objects with the Force and becomes a Sith. It's always one of them. Always one of them. And Snoke might have been one of them. Who knows? Snoke might have been in a battle millennium ago. Ago? Really? Is that what I said? Ago. And he might have gotten killed. Or not killed, because he's alive right here. I don't know what I meant. He might have gotten screwed up. Kind of like Anakin, but not exactly as Anakin's fake. I'm messing up on words. It's funny because I'm talking about Star Wars, and normally I wouldn't mess up on words, but I am. And Palpatine. For some reason, Sith have a history of getting beat the frick out of. Snoke, he's not necessarily a Sith, but he's a dark side user. A little bit, not technically, not really exactly, but a tiny bit. He's a tiny bit of a Force user in Sith, but I don't know. I don't mainly think he's going to use a lightsaber. If we do see him in Episode 8, which we probably will, obviously, or in Episode 9, depending if the final battle happens, we don't know if he's going to be using a lightsaber, or if he's going to be using Force lightning, or if he's just going to get killed off the bat. Snoke is one of our most favorite characters in the Star Wars galaxy universe yet. Besides Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, who rip. May he rest in peace. Like in S.H.I.E.L.D., where I saw Bobby and Hunter leaving. I cried both when Han died and when that happened. Except you gotta remember, if you're walking on a bridge, just with an abyss below it, and there's a Sith, a Force user with a crossguard lightsaber in his hand, don't walk next to him. Don't even go on the bridge. Just talk to him from where you were, because you're obviously going to get killed, and you're obviously going to get smacked. Everyone knew when they saw that scene he was going to die, and some people didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe it, because I saw him walk there, and I was like, dude, no, turn back. This is the only chance. We already know how this ends, because if you know anything, and if you've seen enough movies, everyone always dies on that part. Everyone always dies when they're on the bridge and there's an abyss below. But back on the topic of really what we were talking about, the Second Galactic Civil War, what Palpatine was searching out there, it's all connected into one thing that I think we're going to explore in new canon books that are going to be released. Really just canon stories that are being released. And mainly, just Star Wars 8 and 9. If we find out if everything connects and we find out who Snoke is, we find out his past, we find out what is going on with the First Order, we're going to see a lot of things come true. And for some reason, there's a part of my mind that says Snoke is the reincarnation of Palpatine into this. I mean, I would like to see Palpatine back in, but I would not. I feel like Palpatine in episodes 8 and 9 or really Hayden Christensen again, would be like another Jar Jar appearance. And that is something no one wants. Except for like a tiny percentage of the Star Wars universe fans. But that is very tiny. Anyway, there's not just the Second Galactic Civil War, which is kindly with the First Order, and really the New Republic / Resistance is. There's another war that comes in between and after this. I might even try to put some dark side music on this, because I wish, but it's copyright, you know? I really wish, because I feel like it's part of this. There exists a galaxy next to the Star Wars galaxy. This galaxy that everyone that is a Force user, just random person, everything we know from our galaxy of Star Wars, there's another one next to it. It's kind of like a brother. Same thing. Except there's a race that is taking over the galaxy. The Empire, the Sith, the Separatists, the First Order even, they will probably never be able to take the galaxy over. But there might be one race. And just one race. It doesn't even hold a lightsaber or a blaster. That might even take down the Sith and the Jedi. Every living thing. You've heard of them before. They're known as the Yuuzhan Vong. I actually had trouble saying that name when I first heard about it. When I was first reading the canon knowledge about them, or really just the knowledge about them regularly. And the Yuuzhan Vong Like, because I said Yuzhan Vong, but then I was like Yuzhan Vong. You know, it's like saying a language in a different way. Anyway, what I was saying is the Yuzhan Vong, they already took their galaxy over. And they don't use anything technology. They don't use anything like a lightsaber or a blaster, a ship. They don't use anything like that. But somehow they're able to use organic materials to fly in with ships and to kill their enemies. I can see their spears that could kill people, but I can't see them that thing fighting a lightsaber. Lightsabers cut through mostly every material, but for some reason it's hard to cut through their armor. It's times like these when I think Snoke gets involved. When I was saying earlier that Palpatine was searching for something out there, there's one race that I think they might have accidentally contacted. Because if you think about it, there might be one thing that I think that the remaining forces of the Empire were kind of protecting. They were protecting, well, what I believe, and what Stupendous Wave and a few other people believe. They might have been protecting information that had to do with this race, or the galaxy that was right next to them. This information was Empire only. The Resistance, the Republic, even the Rebel Alliance back when the Empire was still working, they never knew about this. Only the Empire did, and maybe even the First Order. Snoke might even know about the Yuzhan Vong's coming, and he wants to get rid of the Jedi and the Republic before that. Because who knows? You know, it's funny. I've seen this happen in every story. Either if it's the Bible, or if it's Transformers, or if it's Lego Ninjago, or Chima, or if it's anything, really. There's always the good and the light. On the bad guy side, let's just say Transformers Prime. Megatron didn't want Predaking and his Predacons to stay alive because he thought, and he was scared of this happening, he literally thought the Predacons were going to turn against Megatron and kill him to take it over if they got advanced, which kind of might have happened, but Predaking was loyal to Megatron, as Megatron would be really loyal to Unicron, but that was already fake. Predaking was like super loyal to him. And when Megatron started doing that ratchet, it was Megatron's fault. If you didn't want Predaking to turn against him, you really should not have said a word to anyone, especially Starscream and Knockout. Well, actually, no, you could have said it to Starscream and Shockwave, but you should not have said it to Knockout. Obviously, he's going to say something accidentally, and then that's going to cause something, you know? But back on topic of Star Wars, it's funny because I think if Snoke allied himself, if the Emperor Palpatine, if Snoke, it's always the bad guys. If they align themselves with the bigger force of evil, they're going to end up having a fight between their own selves. The Resistance wouldn't even need to be put in check because you'd already have the First Order fighting Yuzhan Vong. Or Zhang Vong. And here's the funny thing, I bet the Yuzhan Vong would kill them. It would eradicate them. Because if you know anything, it's always... Look, the Yuzhan Vong took out most of the Jedi and Sith of the galaxy. And what I know is they're definitely not going to want to team up on that. I remember back to Transformers Prime. Megatron teamed up with Optimus once to defeat Unicron. Well, kind of twice, but that wouldn't really count. The first time he did it was to defeat Unicron before blowing up the Earth, because Megatron knew if Unicron awakes, no Earth, and that means Megatron can't do anything. But if Megatron wins, he still has a planet to conquer, because Cybertron's dead, and by then they didn't know about the Omega Lock and Cyber Matter and all that. But back to Star Wars, they're not going to want to team up with each other. The fact about Star Wars, the fact about all of this, it's interconnected into one plot. And by the end of our time seeing the end of the live-action Star Wars movies, maybe we'll still get some animated short, shows and stuff, like Rebels until it dies off, but we're coming to the end of our adventures between the Star Wars universe. I believe Star Wars 8 and 9. 9 might end up with a cliffhanger. If they do a 2-part Star Wars movie to end the whole live action universe for Star Wars, or really, not cinematic universe, but live action, with just, they finish off the second Galactic Civil War between the Resistance and the First Order, or the Republic versus the First Order. And then at episode 9, at the very end, you just see these organic beings known as the Yuuzhan Vong pop out of nowhere, ready to battle. Just destroying everything. I think it would be pretty good cliffhanger. And this goes out to the creators of episode 8 and 9, and for Star Wars themselves. You have Snoke. You have all of this. We already know about the Second Galactic Civil War and the Yuuzhan Vong, but you don't manage to mention them or bring them in. You're going to bring them in. You will bring them in. Oh wow, I'm mad at myself for doing that. They're going to bring them in, and I'm gonna hope that a lot of you check the video out. Because if you do, I want everyone to go to StarWars.com. Go to the Star Wars channel on YouTube. Message LucasArts. Message every single thing that connects to the Star Wars movies in live action and the shows. And spam Yuuzhan Vong War. Make it canon. Make it happen. Because if there's anything I know is that every movie that exists that's live action, like the Marvel movies, the DC movies, which I'm kind of a fan. I'm hoping Suicide Squad's going to beat Batman v Superman. The Star Wars fans, the Transformers fans, well, maybe not the live action Transformers, but the animated Transformers fans. Mainly all of them. They all, and Harry Potter fans, because this, and Lord of the Rings, they all connect. Because Star Wars so far has had one movie for each episode. But in Harry Potter, they had a movie for each chapter, or technically episode, but they didn't call it episodes. And then they ended off with the 2-parter, which kind of was the same thing. If they end off the Star Wars live action series with just a 2-parter, which is really one episode, or it's really 3-parter, I don't care. If it's 1, 2, 3, I don't care. It would replace episode 10, 11, and 12. You don't really, I don't believe we're going to need 10, 11, and 12. I think we can just need one movie or one more like chapter, but it's put into 3 parts. Or 2. I'm either up with 2 or 3. But it depends on how great the movie. It's like immediately right after the Yuuzhan Vong come in episode 9. And they have to they have no way. And they're trying to escape. And then later in the movie, they start to unravel things. In the second movie, either if it's a 2-parter or 3-parter, I'm going to just say 2-parter, they get the resources and their attack, they beat them. If it's a 3-parter or a 4-parter, I'm just going to say 3-parter because a 4-parter is like just out of bounds. It's actually out of lines, but I don't know if anybody would like it or watch it. They get their materials. They're still they battle a little bit, but they don't know how to defeat the Yuuzhan Vong. And then they get this clue, and then the next part, they would beat them. They would first be ready to attack. They'd probably have a few battles, like small battles, and then they'd have the final battle. And then that's when everything goes back in line. Because in Transformers, I know for a fact in Transformers Prime, Megatron didn't want to inflict pain on everyone. He saw the true meaning of oppression. He didn't want to inflict it anymore. It's like he felt like it was boring. It was a waste of time to the galaxy and to himself. So, I already know the Sith are not going to do that. Because they're Sith. They're dark side. Dark side means embrace the dark. Don't, see it as a weakness like a Jedi. Don't fear it. I mean, you could fear it, but to make yourself dark side. Oh my gosh. The stuff is in my eyes. And plus my glasses all covered up, so it's like covered, so, it's hard to see some things. But anyway, The thing about Star Wars is it surrounds, it penetrates us, binds us together with the living knowledge and organic beings of the Force in this galaxy. I would like to see down in the comments below, and I would like to see in everyone's comments of every Star Wars site, hashtag Yuuzhan Vong. If you don't know how to spell that, I'll leave the word and stuff in the description, and I'll also even maybe put a link to the video just explaining them, maybe from To Spend His Wave or maybe from Dash Star. I don't really, I mean, I don't know if Dash Star has it, but we'll just find out. So I will see you guys, and I would really like to see more talk. Do you think Snoke is connected to all of this? Do you think the Yuuzhan Vong in the Second Galactic Civil War, the First Galactic Civil War, the Clone Wars, do you all think that's going to be connected? It's already connected between the Clone Wars and the Galactic Civil War and the Second Galactic Civil War. But what do you think about the Yuuzhan Vong War? We have not heard a single thing about any species known as the Yuuzhan Vong, except for the knowledge we already know from Star Wars history. That has been explained to us by YouTubers, and that has been explained to us by books and knowledge. Please, please, and to every Star Wars fan, we've already been wanting this. If enough of us ask, and really ask, we might get a 3-parter or 2-parter Yuuzhan Vong battle from Star Wars. The only thing that I'm worried about is it being bad. But if we already know Star Wars, look at Star Wars 7. It was years ago was when Star Wars 3 came out. And technically 30 so years ago since episode 6. And it got a lot of ratings and views and a lot of money to these creators. If they make episode 8, 9, and possibly episode 10, but like in 3 parts done and good, Star Wars is going to get thousands of dollars instantly. But anyway, I will see you guys on my next video. Peace out, and don't forget to keep the mysteries going and flowing. Oh, and one more thing before I leave. One more thing. I think I'm gonna put something in the description down below. I'm gonna put my Twitter and all that. Send me knowledge about certain mysteries you want me to talk about, and I'll maybe even talk about them. You want me to talk more about the Yuuzhan Vong? You want me to talk about I don't know, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Supreme Leader Snoke? Just ask me. I'll put Twitter and I guess Google Plus or something like that on links in the description, or they're already on my channel if you just look at the top right corner, or really just where the picture is of Optimus Prime, where it says my name. I'll have put them in the description maybe, but